The only thing, the only thing that does not have a plan B for in Mother Earth is saving herself. How did we get here? Let's look at the origins of the industrial revolutions over the ages. Industry 1.0 was mechanization in, in the 18th century. Industry 2.0 was electrification in the 19th century. And in Industry 3.0, it became automation in 1970. Digitalization came in 2011 through Industry 4.0. And 2020 brought us Industry 5.0, and it's all about personalization. Industry 5.0 is not actually another revolution. It's a complement or a correction to Industry 4.0, focused on being human-centric, empowering people, talent, and diversity, sustainable, respecting planetary responsibilities, and resilient to being agile and adaptive to advanced technologies, collectively forcing us to think humanity. I'm Mohan Kancharla, a consultant by profession and a design thinker by passion, here to share my experiences on how design thinking can be leveraged in ESG to save the planet. We could start with ESG itself. E is the environmental factors like carbon emissions and waste management practices. S or social are the factors that are impacting the shareholders, customers, employees, and our suppliers. Governance are factors that impact the management, which could be shareholder rights or anti-corruption measures kind of thing. Together, they provide a framework to evaluate a company's sustainability and its ethical impact. One such framework is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. These have been adopted by all the member states in 2015, and it provides a shared blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet now and into the future. The 17 sustainable goals is an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing in a global collaboration. In our illustration, we will look at SDG 9 to demonstrate how design thinking can be applied in ESG. But before that, two quick concepts of design thinking. Firstly, the design thinking principles. Principles are the what of design thinking. Human-centered design is empathizing with the end users. Embracing ambiguity and diversity is accepting uncertainty as a reality. Openness to radical collaboration is working with diverse stakeholders. Co-creating impactful solutions is promoting emotional engagement. And lastly, implement and iteratively improvise is all about proactively working on perceived shortcomings. The second key concept is design thinking practices. Practices are the how of design thinking. I'll share with you a few examples or a few practices that we would be using in our illustration. Empathy maps is a 2x2 matrix which captures what the user is saying, doing, thinking, and feeling, including his pains and gains. User personas is a characterization of the user who represents a segment of the target audience. How might we is crafting actionable statements just by prefixing HMW. Business model canvas describes how an organization generates value to its customers across various dimensions of the enterprise. Similarly, value proposition canvas is about how a customer's products and services fit into the marketplace. It builds upon the two modules of the business model canvas, customer segments and value proposition. We now move on. Other such practices are journey maps, storyboarding, Raskas analysis, morphological analysis, and few brainstorming and interviewing techniques. With that brief introduction to the design thinking concepts, let's now get back to our SDG 9 and apply design thinking in ESG. We will be using the pioneering framework from Stanford D School to walk you through the different phases of design thinking, and I'll explain how design thinking can be applied in ESG. The goal that we would be considering, like I said earlier, is SDG 9, which is industry, infrastructure, and innovation. It aims to provide a resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable and inclusive industrialization, and also foster innovation. Under this goal, target 9.3 roughly translates as the amount of financial services line of credit that is available to small-scale industrial enterprises. And a corresponding indicator there, 9.3.2, is about the proportion of loans or line of credit that is available to small-scale industries. With that introduction, this is the context for our illustration. And now imagine a trader in a tier 2 city and the challenges of his industry with the limited infrastructure that he's got. We first need to assess the needs of the trader. For this small trader, it is all about how can I get a small loan at a short period of time with a short notice. Bear in mind, for these traders, the line of credit procedures are also quite ambiguous kind of a thing. In this context, it is important that we adopt a human-centered design. For that, one can use empathy maps to capture the trader's, what he's feeling, what his actions, what his plans are, including his pains and his expected gains out of it. With the insights from the empathy phase, we now move on. All the insights now have to be converted into formally defined as requirements kind of a thing. Okay? The financial services space infrastructure is also quite diverse. You have nationalized banks, private Indian banks, cooperative banks, and also the individual lenders. Added to it, the line of credit procedures are also quite ambiguous to the trader. Here, user personas is the best suited example for us to baseline all the financial service providers. We now looked at the trader's needs on one hand, and we also have the available financial services providers. With that, we move on to the brainstorming or the ideation phase. Given the complexities of the industry, the trader must be open to radical collaboration to innovate. She should be able to explore other interventions beyond the listed financial services providers. For example, what about microfinance? What about industry bodies? What about the trading communities that are available? And then ask the question, how might we reach out to them for our loan or a line of credit? Post-ideation, design thinking recommends a prototyping phase, ideally co-creating in collaboration with all the concerned stakeholders. We capture all the data that is available and plot it onto the business model canvas to evaluate outcomes. What are the new channels that are available for the trader now? What is the cost of taking a loan from the trading communities? What is the value that I get from collaborating with the industry bodies for collateral? Answers to these questions will help us to innovate and ensure that the solution gains maximum impact. The last phase is the testing phase, which is all about implementing and iteratively improvising upon the solution. In case of ESG, it is important to not only to measure the intended results, which is the availability of a loan or a line of credit, but also to monitor the unintended outcomes. Is the trader using the loan for the intended purpose? Is there a nexus that is being formed in the trading communities for a potential or a possible misuse of the collateral kind of thing? To look at these checks and balances, value proposition canvas is an ideally suited tool. It tells us, have we created enough pain relievers? Have we generated enough gain creators? Okay. Have we promoted a sustainable infrastructure? Have we provided for industrialization, inclusive industrialization that is possible kind of thing? What we have seen through this process is that how design thinking has been applied in SDG 9, a goal that represents E, S, and G of ESG kind of a thing. Design thinking essentially has allowed us to empathize with the end user. It has allowed us to baseline with all the service providers. It is given an opportunity to ideate and collaborate and co-create solutions. And most importantly, it not only measures your intended outcome, but it also monitors any unintended outcomes that are possible. Okay. Design thinking, however, with all its evolution, and even though it has evolved from a features-based product design to a people-based human-centered design, it's still an Industry 4.0 play. Think design is design thinking maturing at Industry 4.0 to be sustainable and resilient. Design thinking is now adding planet to the people and the product perspective to be humanity-centered. Humanity-centered design acknowledges the rights of all humanity, and it addresses the entire ecosystem, all living creatures, and the Earth's environment. Now, isn't that amazing? Wouldn't you want to be part of that journey? Come join me. Let's think humanity to save the planet. Let think design be the force multiplier to engineer the future. Thank you.